So, you've watched Game of Thrones, beaten Skyrim 3 times, and think you'd make a pretty epic medieval knight, right? Strong, brave, heroic. Basically Geralt of Rivia, just with less shampoo. Well, sorry to burst your fantasy bubble, but it's time for a reality check. Imagine yourself, fearless warrior, riding a majestic horse. But you're battling diarrhea, haven't bathed in 2 weeks, and desperately trying to figure out if the bread in your bag is just stale or lethally moldy. Because, my friend, real medieval life didn't come with pause buttons, checkpoints, or late-night pizza deliveries. Nope. Survival was strictly hardcore. Think Dark Souls on realistic mode, only with urinary infections and 0 healing potions. And if you thought the Middle Ages were magical, filled with dragons, princesses, and exciting prophecies, think less The Witcher and more like a bad episode of Monty Python. Complete with bizarre diseases, suspicious neighbors, and a constant smell of cow dung 24/7. The truth is, we've romanticized medieval times way too much. Shiny armor and epic duels? Sure, they existed, but for 99% of folks, life was closer to Shrek, just without the talking donkey to lighten things up. Ready to uncover the not-so-glamorous side of medieval history? Spoiler alert. You probably wouldn't even survive dinner. Ever complained about your food delivery arriving cold? Congratulations, you're officially spoiled by modern life. Back in medieval times, cold food wasn't just normal. It was considered gourmet. Picture this, your daily menu is mostly mushy porridge, hard bread, and some watery beer. With luck, maybe an onion. Delicious, right? Forget Uber Eats or TikTok recipes promising gourmet dishes in 60 seconds. In the Middle Ages, fast food meant desperately chewing moldy bread before starvation chewed on you. And speaking of mold, there's nothing quite like medieval food poisoning. You know that mild stomach ache after questionable sushi? Medieval folks had the hardcore version, courtesy of a fungus called ergot that grew on rye bread. Side effects included hallucinations, painful convulsions, and occasional death. Basically the medieval equivalent of accidentally eating a Dark Souls boss. And when crops failed, things got even worse. Imagine surviving a winter munching on grass, tree bark, or dirt patties. Yeah, literal dirt. Your gluten-free diet sounds pretty luxurious now, doesn't it? Next time your lunch arrives late, just remember, medieval life didn't have refunds or customer service. Just food poisoning, despair, and an unsettling chance you'd mistake the hallucinations for divine revelations. Think about this. How many days can you survive without a shower before your friends stage an intervention? 2, 3. Maybe after a weekend at a music festival, you're already feeling like Shrek's swamp cousin. Now, imagine going months. Yes, months, without so much as splashing water on yourself. Welcome to medieval hygiene, or as historians lovingly call it, a total lack thereof. In the Middle Ages, bathing was rare, sometimes even considered dangerous. People genuinely believed that water opened your pores, letting diseases sneak in. Basically medieval germ theory in reverse. So instead of a quick rinse, you just douse yourself in perfumes, herbs, and, occasionally, desperation. It's the hygiene equivalent of covering up dog poop with Febreze and calling it fresh. Oh, and dental care. Forget toothpaste or flossing. Your toothbrush was your finger, if you even bothered. Some brave souls gargled urine, yup, actual pee, believing it whitened their teeth. And clothes. You'd wear the same sweaty wool tunic until it practically welded to your body. Laundry day wasn't weekly. It was seasonal, if at all. If you think wearing the same hoodie for 3 days is gross, imagine months wrapped in layers of sweat, mud, and probably some livestock droppings. Geralt of Rivia might look gritty and cool after months without a bath, but trust me, in reality, you'd smell less like a heroic monster slayer and more like the monster itself. Remember being a kid, whining because your parents didn't buy you the latest PlayStation or let you stay up watching cartoons? Well, medieval childhood would laugh at your first world problems, and then send you to work in the fields before sunrise. Because, believe it or not, being a kid back then wasn't all fun and games. Actually, it was pretty much 0 fun and -3 games. Children in the Middle Ages weren't exactly allowed a carefree childhood. Instead, think of them as tiny, exhausted adults forced to perform tasks that today would make Child Protective Services faint. From age 5, yes, 5, you'd be feeding animals, harvesting crops, or even apprenticing in brutal trades like blacksmithing or leatherworking. Forget playing Fortnite. Medieval kids played Try Not to Die from Dysentery daily. Speaking of survival, nearly half of medieval children didn't even make it past their 5th birthday. No cute birthday parties, no TikTok dances, no piñatas. Just the constant looming threat of starvation, diseases, and suspicious medieval medicine. Honestly, if you made it past infancy, you were basically considered tough enough to star in your own medieval version of the Hunger Games. So next time you're complaining about slow Wi-Fi, just remember, if you were born in medieval Europe, you'd probably be too busy dodging plagues and wolves to even notice you had no internet. Hey Discovers, real quick before we dive back in, I've got a small favor to ask. If you love historical curiosities, epic battles, crazy mysteries, and mind-blowing stories that most people don't know about, then hit that subscribe button right now. That way, you won't miss any of our new videos and can keep uncovering insane facts every week. And of course, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and brings you even more awesome content. Alright, let's jump back into history. Ever have one of those days when you're just feeling down, anxious, or maybe a bit overwhelmed by life? Nowadays, you grab your phone, scroll TikTok, or maybe chat with a therapist online. Well, good news. You wouldn't have those options in medieval times. Bad news. Feeling anxious back then usually meant you had a demon infestation. Yup, mental illness wasn't treated with therapy. It was treated with exorcism, leeches, and occasionally some holy beatings. Back then, if you showed signs of anxiety, depression, or just looked mildly suspicious, congratulations. You were officially possessed by demons. Treatments. Imagine medieval healthcare as an unpleasant combination of Game of Thrones torture and Dark Souls boss battles, only less forgiving. Doctors, and by doctors, we mean monks with sharp objects, prescribed bloodletting, isolation, or prayers repeated until you either felt better or pretended to. Had strange habits, like talking to yourself or twitching a little too much. They'd probably call you a witch, a warlock, or worse, a candidate for execution. Remember how The Witcher shows villagers panicking over someone with magical powers? Medieval villagers panicked if you had weird dreams, cried too much, or sneezed suspiciously. It wasn't exactly an understanding time for mental health. So, next time your anxiety kicks in, just be glad the solution today is meditation apps, not holy water baths or the business end of a cross. Ever skipped brushing your teeth before bed and woke up feeling like your mouth transformed into Shrek's swamp overnight? Now imagine waking up every day feeling like that. Forever. Welcome to medieval dentistry, a delightful world where oral hygiene didn't exist, and toothache relief usually involved pliers, wine, and prayers, preferably all at once. Back in the Dark Ages, nobody understood cavities or gum disease. Toothpaste was basically science fiction, and your toothbrush was, well, your finger. Dental floss? What's that? Some kind of wizardry. Your average medieval peasant's teeth would make even a White Walker's smile look appealing. Abscesses, infections, and toothaches were so common that losing teeth before hitting adulthood was considered totally normal. And if your toothache got too painful, no worries. Medieval medicine had plenty of creative solutions. You could bite on a heated rock, totally logical. Gargle wine, the medieval version of mouthwash, just way less effective. Or simply let a local blacksmith yank it out with rusty pliers. Painkillers? Dream on. The closest you got to anesthesia was passing out from sheer terror. So next time you're dreading a dental cleaning, just remember, medieval tooth care was basically Elden Ring level torture without the cool graphics or comforting respawn points. These days, you complain when your GPS sends you down the wrong street, or when your Uber takes 5 extra minutes. But medieval traveling made your worst way's nightmare look like a leisurely stroll through Disneyland. Picture a lovely weekend trip. Just replace lovely with terrifying, and trip with life-threatening gamble. Back in medieval times, roads weren't charming cobblestone paths filled with picturesque taverns. Nope. They were muddy, barely marked trails packed with bandits, wolves, and people ready to accuse you of being a spy just because you wore shoes that looked slightly foreign. Hotels. Forget fluffy pillows and complimentary breakfasts. Medieval inns offered moldy straw beds, fleas as roommates, and a high chance you'd wake up robbed or dead. Bridges. They were usually shaky ropes stretched over raging rivers, just waiting to give you that authentic Dark Souls experience, complete with falling to your doom. A simple 30-kilometer trip wasn't a quick drive with a podcast. It was an epic quest filled with more danger than your average Elden Ring playthrough. Even the games got this part right. Literally everything outside your village probably wanted you dead, or at least severely inconvenienced. So the next time you get frustrated because your flight is delayed, just remember, in medieval times, your travel plans would likely involve a donkey, a rusty sword, and prayers that you wouldn't accidentally trigger a real-life Game of Thrones plot twist. Alright, let's recap your delightful medieval vacation package. Food. Absolutely terrible, unless you're into hallucinations caused by moldy bread. Hygiene. An advanced future concept. Your cologne was manure, and showers were considered lethal. Mental health. Non-existent. Just demons, leeches, and an enthusiastic priest with questionable methods. Kids. Tiny, exhausted adults with zero childhood. Unless your idea of fun was avoiding tetanus. Dentistry. Less about fixing teeth, more about pulling them with rusty tools. And zero anesthetic. Travel. A thrilling dice roll with death, wolves, and bridges made from twine and wishful thinking. Still convinced you'd thrive in medieval times? Come on. You freak out when your phone drops below 20% battery. Let's be honest, most of us wouldn't even survive missing one episode of our favorite Netflix show, let alone a day without Wi-Fi. So tell me, brave knight of the internet, what would kill you first in the Middle Ages? The plague, the poisoned bread, or sheer boredom from no TikTok? Drop a comment below and admit your medieval weakness. Spoiler alert, it's probably all three at once.